With his new book and efforts, Yinka Omojobi might just inspire other African intellectuals to get into the trenches in the battlefield where terrorism is being confronted. I reviewed his book and discussed matters related with him recently. He provided much to ponder on as we continue to grapple with Africa's latest deadly threats. Yinka, nice to have you on the channel's book club.
It's a pleasure.
Great book you've written here, Frontiers of Jihad, Radical Islam in Africa.
That's right.
I had a lot of things going through my mind while reading it. But let's start from here.
Okay.
You've said Radical Islam in Africa. I've had a lot of people saying the expression Radical Islam is a wrong expression. It's contradictory. That the very nature of Islam, being a religion of peace, does not leave room for using adjectives like extremism or radical, with the word Islam. What's your take on that? Even in the, let me quickly read the first quote in your book, which is a statement by President Muhammadu Buhari, Punch newspaper, page 9, Thursday, July 9, 2015. He said here, "You can't go and kill innocent people and say Allah Akbar. It is either you don't believe it or you don't know what you are saying. So it has nothing to do with religion. They are just terrorists and Nigeria will mobilize against all of them. They are just terrorists. It has nothing to do with religion." You've argued extensively in this book that Boko Haram, for example, has almost everything to do with religion. So can you explain what you mean by radical Islam, particularly in the light of the two quotations I just read out?
Thank you. Islam, first of all, is a religion of peace. It's a religion of harmony. It's a religion that ascribes a way of life for the individual, how to strive with God, how to be perfect, how to be holy. Islam has nothing to do with violence. It has nothing to do with terrorism. However, a small number of Muslims have taken on the cloak of death and destruction. They have become or acquired radical thought through being radicalized either by people or by circumstances. So in truth, Islam is peaceful, but some, very few Muslims have become radicalized. So they attached a religious explanation for their radicalism. They attach a doctrine of death and destruction through Islam, which is a misnomer. You find that radical thought has been in existence for a long time. In the early part of European history, you find the Christian Crusades. They were radical in description. They had this concept of capturing the whole world through wars, death, destruction, all the way down to the Middle East. Adolf Hitler in Nazi Germany radicalized Christian ideology. He had something they called scientific Christianity, which was about Germans are the superior race, all other Europeans are below them, and hence it was okay in the sight using religion, scientific Christianity, to destroy people, especially of the Jewish nation. So he used Christianity to support his arguments of death and destruction, which isn't Christian. And using these groups, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Boko Haram, use Islam to support their doctrine of death and ideology. It has nothing to do with Islam in the true sense of the word, but the fact that they have attached Islam to this radical thought, then it becomes radical Muslim. So your radical Islam is to describe the context of a very small amount of people, not Muslims, but radical Muslims or terrorists who have used Islam as a source of death and destruction, which is against the principles of Islam in itself.
Now, some might argue that by their very actions, which are contradictory to the tenets of Islam, then it's wrong to even describe them at all as Muslims.
That is true, but what is the best way to describe them? They are not Muslims, but they are radical Muslims because, as I said before, they have attached a religious ideology to their carrying out destruction, terrorist activities. Even in Christianity, you have radical Christians who have used an ideology which is not found in the Bible. Some years ago, probably perhaps in the 70s, a pastor took all his, in Guyana...
Guyana tragedy.
Guyana tragedy, took all his members and they were told to drink and eat poison and die. You have such happening in Nigeria where you have pastors preaching things which are not in the Bible, things which are not being set out by Christians, by Jesus Christ. Then, what do we describe them as? You can describe them as extremist in nature or radical by nature. Now, radicalism is all about people who desire change. Change could be positive or negative. In this sense, the change that they want is negative. Okay. So we call it radical Islam because they've used their debased ideology and attached with an ideology, a religious faith. But in the true sense of the word, Islam has nothing to do. That's why in the first page of the book, I quoted the quotation of the Mr. President, Muhammadu Buhari, which says it has nothing to do with Islam. But radical, the word radical is used to describe, to contextualize the ideology.
It helps to put it within context.
Within context, that's why it is used.
I think that.
But if when the reader reads the book, you find that I've argued Islam is a religion of peace, that these groups have nothing to do with Islam, but they have been radicalized due to circumstances, social conditioning, and other factors.